Okay, it is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. This is for international food. So we've been focusing our week on Eastern European countries, right? So this week and next week for this unit. And today we're going to be making a Polish hunter's stew. So now this stew is with kielbasa, cabbage, and onion, and carrots, and lots of flavor. It is a quicker version of, a lot of classic Polish recipes, so it's great for a weeknight too, because it won't take as long, okay? So we're going to be starting off today with some kielbasa. All right, so I've got some right here. So this is just, little lengths the way that you would buy it in the store. So it's just slightly under a pound, usually 12 to 14 ounces on average. So the recipe calls for about 2 cups, so this is more than enough for that. I've got my cast iron pan here on my little burner, getting ready to go. So we're going to cut this up first. I'm just going to do it into some slices. All right, so the easiest way I find to work with this, with the kielbasa, is just cut it in half and then slice down. You could slice it in half again lengthwise and get smaller chunks and pieces. That would be fine as well, right? So just some nice sliced discs. This recipe will also feed several people, easily, 4 to 6 people out issue, right? And we're going to start off. Now, going through the recipe that's going to be attached, the link to the video, it says to cook the kielbasa separate. I'm not doing that today. I'm starting off with this in the pan because when you're cooking meats like this, you get a lot of those little bits, right, that end up in the bottom of the pan as you're cooking, right? So we want to make sure that we're able to extract all that flavor into the dish, right? It's what we call the fond, the stuff that's on the bottom of the pan. So we're going to start off with our kielbasa, and we're going to add everything else into this. So it's going to end up being a 1-pot meal, turning only 1 pan, cutting board and knife, couple of things, right? So less dishes that way too. Okay, so our kielbasa is right here. I just turned on my little cast iron pan on the gas cooktop. And I'm going to put in a little bit of oil. So a little olive oil, a little vegetable oil. You don't need a lot because there's a lot of natural fat in the kielbasa already, right? So we're just going to give that a couple of seconds to start heating up. And we're going to saute the sausage, right? So our next thing that we're going to add into this is a little bit of onion. So we're trying to get a little brown, a little caramelization on the meat. Like I said, and that creates those little bits that kind of stick to the bottom of the pan. Those will get deglazed down after when I add in the chicken stock. So all of that yumminess will get lifted up away from the bottom surface of the pan, and we'll be good to go. All right. So we're going to throw this in. So the whole thing. I've got a pair of tongs here as well to stir as needed. I'll let that start browning and doing its thing. It'll get sizzling really good and high. It's just barely sizzling, but you can't quite hear that just yet. So we're going to start off with a good medium-sized onion, right? We want to peel this, and we're just going to do some nice slices out of it. So I'm trimming off the top of the onion, slicing right down through the root. Peel this up. We're going to use 1 whole medium onion. If your onions are really big, you can just use half of an onion. That's fine. But the onion's going to give it some nice, great flavor that pairs really well with any sausage, right? So don't worry, I've got trash here. Put that into the trash can. I'm just going to do some slices. So these can be a little bit on the thicker side. They don't have to be super thin. So something like that is a good size. Remember to keep those fingers curled up in that claw, right? So that way you're keeping your fingertips protected at all times. So good amount of onion. So it's got meat, it's got vegetables. This is listed as a summertime kind of Polish hunter stew. We're going to throw these onions right in with the sausage. Bring those right over here to this pan. Like I said, but this would be a good weeknight meal. If you're looking for something a little bit different, you haven't had kielbasa in a while, right? Getting them browned and caramelized. We've got everything into our pan there. All right, so we're going to let that cook down for a little bit while we cut the rest of our meat. So you can go easy on the oil. But if your pan starts to get dry, add a little bit more in, right? keep an eye on your heat too. You want it to be browning and caramelizing. So some of the pieces you can already see already getting a little bit of color there, right? That's what we're looking for. And that nice little bit of char to it. That's going to help extract out a lot of flavor. All right, just giving that a quick stir. I'm going to adjust my heat down because I had that burner on high. So I'm going to about a medium on the heat. Perfect. This pan's going to get really full really fast. So we're going to do a little shredded carrot and cabbage, what we used last week, right, for our Asian recipe. So I'm using up what I've got on hand so nothing gets wasted. So I'm going to take and trim off the ends of our carrot. It's already been washed really well and dried. Cut that up and do some shredded carrot because that'll make it so it cooks faster, right? If we had big slices and things, we might have to par cook the carrot first. And we don't want to spend that kind of time, especially for a weeknight, right? We want something that's going to be quick and fast. So shredding carrot is always a way to cook it a lot quicker than traditional big cuts, right? Plus, it's going to give it some vitamins. It's going to give it a lot of color to it as well. Perfect. I'm just going to stir the pan here real quick. And the smell is great, right? Now, I haven't put any salt or anything into this, right? So something to understand with Polish kielbasa is, and any sausages similar to this, is that there's salt in the curing process. So go easy on the salt. I usually leave it out, taste everything at the end, and then see if it needs any salt. And I'll adjust later. All right, so there is our carrots. Now we're going to do some shredded up cabbage. I'm using the other half of the cabbage today that I had from last week, so put into a Ziploc bag. It was perfectly fine. Right, so remember we're going to take that core out. So this is just a quarter of the cabbage. You could go more if you'd like, right? And then we're just going to slice this down. Like I said, you want to try and get this nice and thin. So similar if you were making a coleslaw, right, or sauerkraut. Nice thin strips. So this will cook fast because this is going to be our next thing to go in. Right? Everything's going to build in this one pan. Those are the kind of meals I like because they're fast. You don't have to have, 3 pots on the stove. Right. There we go. So about the same size pieces. Yeah. Beautiful. Perfect, right? So at this point, I'm going to bring it in here in a second just to see our kielbasa and onions, right? And that just on itself is a great flavor combination for dinner, right? Those onions are going to bring a little bit of sweetness to that caramelized sausage. Going to bring out a lot of flavor. So all of the cabbage is going in and the shredded carrot. Right. So it's going to look like a lot. I'm going to show you here in a second. Because this is a 10-inch skillet, right? This is going to cook down, though. So that's the nice thing about cabbage is it cooks down. We only did 1 carrot. That's plenty. And I get a lot of color in there. So it does look too full, but that cabbage easily breaks out. It's like cooking with spinach. Same thing, right? So just going to give that a minute to kind of steam itself out. Giving it a little flip, putting some of the hot stuff on top. Now, there's other flavors that are going to be going into this dish, right? Classic Polish flavors. So we're going to put some fresh herbs in after, but I am going to also put in some caraway seeds, right? Now, caraway seeds have, you can also use anise seeds as well, have a slight licorice flavor to it, right? And that is traditionally used a lot as well in sausage making. So it may be actually in a lot of sausages, but we're going to add this in to our dish. So about a half a teaspoon's worth of our seeds. I'll put that right into the skillet. All right. I'm also going to add in a bay leaf. So bay leaf is from the laurel plant, laurel tree, right? So we're going to add in one of these. So this though, the bay leaf, the texture doesn't change. It stays pretty dry. It's just going to infuse flavor. So make sure that you remove this out before you serve it. Nobody wants to eat this part, right? It's not going to hurt anybody. It's just not pleasant to eat. Okay. So I'm going to add that into the pan. Now at this point, like I said, I'm not going to add any salt, but I am going to add in some black pepper. Okay. I said the salt will be at the very end. Taste it, season, things like that. That's fine, right? So just a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. If you're doing it from pre-ground, maybe a half a teaspoon. Okay. You can see it's already starting to cook down. Now you can cover it at this point and just kind of let it steam and do its thing. But we're going to be adding some liquid to this as well, which is also going to help cook this down. Okay. So I'm actually going to turn my heat up back to high because we're going to be adding in some liquid that's at room temperature. It's not cold, but it is some vegetable stock. So I need 2 cups, so I'm going to use half the jar. Right, and that's what's nice about using mason jars when you're canning things because it's got measurements right on the side. A little bit more. There we go. We've got our 2 cups of vegetable broth. And that's why I turn the heat up because this is a stew, right? So stews mean that you need to have some form of liquid to them, right? Cook down nicely. Bring it in closer so you can see that already happening, right? So we're going to get this good and hot and bubbling. Okay. So this is a dish that you can kind of get it started, leave it on the stove on low. Once it starts to simmer, you know, good 10 minutes or so, it'll cook and taste even better. Right? This will also heat up really well as leftovers the next day, like for tomorrow's lunch. All right. So we're also going to add in here this a little bit of tomato paste, right? So just regular tomato paste from the store. So about a tablespoon's worth, good heaping amount, right? This is going to help give some color and some flavor to this stew as well, okay? So I'm going to be adding that in right into my pan. I'm going to make a little spot here to the side. I can add this right into the liquid. Dissolve it in, and that'll dissolve right in. So that's going to give us a nice punch of fresh, concentrated tomato flavor. If you don't have any tomato paste, you could also use a little tomato sauce or a little bit of canned, you know, diced tomato or things like that. That'll cook down. That's fine. Now you can see the vegetables are starting to get really limp, right? They're soaking up all that liquid, that yummy flavor. So by cooking things in broth instead of just water, you're definitely increasing the flavor profile, right? Tomato paste stuck there. There we go. Beautiful. All right, bring it in for a close-up shot. So now you've got that little hint of the redness in there going with that. Now, another classic Polish flavor is dill, right? And always fresh dill. You can use dried, but if you're going to be doing it, might as well go all in and get some fresh dill, right? So this is dill here. It looks very feathery and light. Has a great aroma to it. And for this recipe, we're going to need, excuse me, to add in a couple tablespoons worth of fresh dill. So like with any of the other herbs, right, we just want to break some of these stems, these finer stems off from the top. There's always thicker stems at the bottom that you don't want to add into things. So we're looking to use what would be the fine stems, right? So we're going to break off a few of those. If you have extra dill left over, just hang it up someplace on a string, let it dry. So that should be good there. Yeah, maybe a little more. I like dill. A little bit extra though. Remember, save a little bit for your garnish as well. So this is simmering and bubbling over here in the pan, which is exactly what we want to cook this nice and fast. Especially for demo's sake. But I am going to turn the heat down just slightly. Back to our medium. right? So with the dill, we have these big sprigs, right? So we want to break these down a little bit more. So come in and just run the knife through it, right? This is one of the easiest herbs to chop. It's just super fine, but has a lot of great flavor to it, right? And you see this dill is used a lot in Eastern European cuisine with seafood dishes, with things that have sour cream in them, because it just pairs really well. Also with kielbasa, all right? So this is something you can add in right near at the very end, but I want to bring it in to show you how it's bubbling away here, right? Look at that. Beautiful. It's gonna be good. Trust me. If you're looking for something different out of the ordinary, right? Trying to get a little creative with dinner, this is a nice, easy recipe to do. So our cabbage is nice and soft and tender, and that's what you want to check, is that it's tender, taste it, things like that. So I'm going to add in our fresh dill. Okay. So we're going to add in the whole 2 tablespoons here. So this is going to give us a little hint of green as well. But like I said, lots of great flavor. So flavor and color, right? You eat with your eyes. You want it to look good, but you want it to taste just as good too. Blend that in. Now this could stand to cook down just a little bit more. I am just going to grab a piece of cabbage here to taste. It's mostly cooked through right now anyways. I don't like my cabbage too mushy. So this is perfect for me. And it'll hold well for leftovers for the next day. Now this recipe did call for the addition of flour. You could mix in a little flour to thicken the broth up faster, but you would want to take and mix in some flour with just a little bit of cold water first. Don't put straight flour into a hot pan with boiling liquid, because it'll just thicken up and make like little lumpy dumplings. You don't want that. Okay. Let me just clean up my mess here. Clean as you go. Always, right? So I'm going to bring this in so you can see this up close, right? Take and plate some of this up. Now this, like I said, this could stand to cook probably another 5 minutes or so just to cook down the liquid, but I'm going to bring this in to show you anyways at this point. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good amount of everything, right? You want that kielbasa, cabbage and carrots, right? Lots of beautiful flavors. There you go. Look at that. Put these beauties up on top. Those nice caramelized pieces. So by caramelizing that kielbasa sausage in the pan, like I said, lots of times it leaves little bits and things stuck. So you want to deglaze that pan down. Deglazing is by putting in that chicken broth or a vegetable broth or beef broth or whatever liquid you have, takes all those little bits off the bottom of the pan. So you get all that flavor. You're not losing any flavor as you do this, right? So then I'm going to take a couple of sprigs of my fresh dill, right, to finish this off. You could also top this with just a little dollop of sour cream. And there you go. Look at that. Beautiful, right? I'm going to bring you over to show you in the pan again. Right, look at that cooking down. Like I said, it's got a little bit of liquid left, a couple more minutes, time's sake. But for demo time, there it is, right? So our Polish hunter's stew, lots of flavor, kielbasa, cabbage, carrots, onions, so lots of veggies, a little bit of meat, tomato paste, vegetable broth, those caraway seeds, and the dill really give you that flavor profile of that Polish cuisine, right? So there you go. Hopefully you guys get a chance to make this. Like I said, great for a weeknight fast meal.